Hi guys, welcome to another yoga day. So today you'll notice that my camera and place of putting my mat is in a different place, and that's because we're going to do some wall work to start off with today. So you are going to want to bring your mat up against somewhere that has a wall space and position whatever you're watching me on so that you can still see it. You're also going to need a rolled up blanket and a cushion or a brick. If you have a yoga brick, you can go for the yoga brick. But as always, I'm going to use the things that I think are more easily accessible in your home. So what we're focusing on today is your quads and your hamstrings. Specifically, we're working on stretching the quads and strengthening the hamstrings, because I think in yoga we spend far too much time stretching the hamstrings and strengthening the quads and very little the other way around. So we're going to be working on it that way. So you're going to start off lying down, bring your cushion or brick to the side, take your blanket with you. Now the easiest way to get your legs up the wall is to lie with your bum touching the wall, is to lie on your side and get both bum cheeks touching the wall. So if you lie completely on the side of the body, it doesn't matter which side, get both bum cheeks touching the wall, both sitting bones touching the wall, and then swing yourself up. Hopefully you have a little bit more space than I do either side of you, but I don't, kind of limited with wall space here. Everything is taken up by sofas and tables and all sorts of other things. And then you're just going to stay here for a moment. If you don't get your bum completely to the wall, don't worry. It's okay if it's slightly away from the wall, but you can also just shuffle yourself a bit closer. Then you can rest your hands on your belly and you're going to flex your feet and try to just get your big toes to come together. Your heels are slightly apart and then your little toes are moving down towards you. And then you're going to close your eyes and just focus in on your breath. See if you can breathe into your belly and see if in this position, without having anything under your back yet, if you can get yourself into more of a neutral spine. So very often in this position we end up a little bit tucked. So you end up like this with your tailbone coming right off the floor, your lower back sinking onto the floor, into the ground. You don't want to have that. You want to try and get your sacrum down and that little space in your lower back still there, so you're in neutral. If you really can't get it there, this is when you grab your blanket, you lift your pelvis and you bring it underneath your sacrum. And then you relax your pelvis into it. Again, don't let yourself be in this tucked position where your lower back is still on the floor. You need to bring the blanket to a place where you can feel the legs can drop down into the sockets and you've got a little bit of a lift in your lower back. And then once you're there and you're nice and comfortable, then again you're going to flex your feet and take some nice deep breaths into your belly. So already, yes, we are stretching the hamstrings, but we're doing it from a much safer place than we tend to do in yoga, which is going straight into forward bones, which is somehow lovely, but also really overstretches the hamstrings, at times anyway. It's caused me lots of injuries. Keep breathing into your belly. And then see if you can send that breath from your belly to your ribs and into your chest. So then you start to feel the ribs relaxing into the floor. And then you're going to grab your cushion or your brick, fold it in half, so you get a nice big squish, and bring it between your inner thighs. And then see if can you really work your inner thighs and still get your bum on the wall whilst you're squeezing this. As you're squeezing it, you don't want your legs to be turned out. You need to squeeze it to get your knees to face you, your legs to drop deeper into the socket. So now we're doing a really active Viparita Karani, which is what this pose is called, legs up the wall. And we're really dragging our legs down into our sockets. We're trying to keep ourselves in neutral and feeling those inner thighs getting a good workout. Keep taking some nice long deep breaths. And see if you can feel that both legs are working as hard as each other, your right leg as much as your left and vice versa. My left leg gets so tired so quickly. It's definitely weaker than the right one. One more breath here. And then you can take that cushion away, bring it to the side, bring it up here, and then just point and flex your feet a few times just to release the ankles, because they've had quite a bit of a workout, seeing as they've been flexed for so long. And then you're going to bring the soles of the feet together and make your knees wide. Luckily I can tuck mine behind this sofa. And you're going to press your feet together. You're then going to push the outer edges of your heels into the wall, so you start to feel your outer glutes engage, and then see if that will help you to open your knees a little bit more. Try and keep your little toe mounds together, your big toe mounds together, your inner heels and your outer heels together. And again, push your heels into the wall, get your outer glutes to engage, and then see if you can make your knees a bit wider, and perhaps your feet will come down a little bit lower. Again, push the feet into the wall, let your knees widen. One more time, push your feet into the wall, outer hips engage, feet slide down a little bit more, knees widen, if they can, don't push it. You don't want to do it and then again have this big tucked position in your pelvis. Keep your tailbone down, the spine in neutral. And then you're going to really gently slide your legs back up the wall. Bring your feet onto the wall, and you'll notice in this position you're in a really kind of hinged position. So now you're going to push your feet into the wall and lift your pelvis to take the blanket away. Bring it behind you or beside you, and you're going to scoot yourself backwards so that your bum's a little away from the wall. Not too far, not quite 90 degrees with the knees, but a little way away from the wall. And then walk your feet up the wall. Now from here, can you relax your shoulders? You can take your arms down by your sides, palms facing up to the ceiling. And as you press your feet into the wall, you're going to start to lift your pubic bone. So then you feel this little tucked position coming in, but it's not a tuck. You're pushing your feet to lift your pubic bone and to lengthen your spine. And you keep lifting your pubic bone to lift your pelvis all the way up. And then you can walk your feet up a little bit more to just get your feet and your knees in line with each other pretty much. And then really press into your feet. Let your shoulders relax. Look at your hips and check that they're even. You don't want one to be slightly down. Keep them even. And then really slowly, one vertebrae at a time, you let your pelvis come back down. All the way back to neutral. And then we're going to do that again. Push into your feet, lift through your pubic bone, lifting your legs. So you should feel this going almost straight away into your hamstrings and your bum. Should be nice and soft on the knees. And see if you can imagine you've got that little cushion between your legs that you're squeezing so that you keep your inner thighs engaged. And again, we take it down. And then again up, push into your feet, lift through your pubic bone, nice and slowly lift your pelvis. So this is kind of a bridge pose, except instead of doing it on the floor, obviously we're doing it on a wall. Slowly take it down. The down needs to be as controlled as going up, and then again up. Really feel the back of the legs engage. It's not squeezing the bum, it's just working the bum. And down, nice and slow. And we're going to do it one more time. Last time. Lifting through the pubic bone, pushing through your feet, nice and evenly through your feet, all the way up. And you might find that on this last one, you're higher than you were on the first one. You've perhaps managed to get your pelvis to lengthen a bit more, your spine to lengthen a bit more. And then take it down. Then bring your feet down, roll yourself to your side, and then you're going to come onto all fours. And now you can move your mat away from the wall. Okay, now my mat is back in the position it should be. Hopefully yours is away from the wall. You are also going to need a chair. So you want to grab a chair and just put it somewhere next to your mat so that you have it for when you need it. And then we're just going to start off in this all fours position. So spread your fingers nice and wide, knees underneath your hips, so you're in a good tabletop position. And then find that neutral spine again, so you don't have a rounding in your back, you don't have it too curved in your back, it's somewhere between the two. And as always, a good way to check that is to look in a mirror. You'll know straight away, like I have the reflection of the window behind me, and it is quite helpful because it means I can check if I'm too much like this or too much like this. I know here I'm in a neutral spine. So if you have a mirror or someone who can check it for you, go for it, because it's a really good way of learning for yourself. Now press down into your finger pads and your knuckles, and press down more into your left foot. You're then going to take a nice big breath in, and without moving your pelvis or your ribs, slide your right leg out behind you. And then take a breath in, and slide that right leg across to the left. As you go to the left, don't let this hip drop. Otherwise, you're not going to get what you need out of this movement. You need to keep your pelvis really stable, as if you've got a tray on your pelvis, and just extend through the foot without letting that hip drop. Then keep pushing that foot down, take a nice big breath in, and just walk your hands forwards and take your right hand very gently over to the left. So you end up coming into a bit of a side stretch, which is, you see why I say you don't want to be here. Keep your pelvis open, your ribs up. So then you feel a nice little stretch in your right ribs. Then you're going to take your hands back to their tabletop position, but keep your leg where it is. Tuck the right toes under, then tuck your left toes under. Take a big breath in, and as you breathe out, I want you to push back with your legs and back with your pelvis. So you're in this really weird crisscrossed position, but you're in a downward facing dog. And then you should feel a stretch through the back of your left knee, and just a little bit around the outside of your right hip. You're going to try and push your left hip back a little bit more. Really press up through your sitting bones and try not to let your ribs collapse. Keep your ribs open. And then from there, you take a breath in. As you breathe out, you're going to walk your hands back to your feet. So then you're still in this funky little crisscross position, and you've got yourself in a forward bend. Now, if in your forward bend, this is impossible, and you feel like you can't possibly have your legs in a straight position, this is when you can walk yourself back out for a second. Go and grab your chair and bring it to you. Then take yourself back into that position with the legs pretty wide. They're actually not that close together. And then from there, you see if you can let yourself fold, or you take your hands onto a chair. I need to bring myself forward because we're going to need space behind us. Then if you're using the chair, you take your forearms onto the chair. You're then going to keep your left leg where it is. So your left leg is on the floor. And you're going to very gently lift your right leg. As you lift it, lift and hug your leg right into the pelvis. Feel like someone's pushing it in there. And then you're going to keep your pelvis stable and lift the leg and bring it down. Again, lift the leg, bring it down. Now if you're doing this with the pelvis really nice and stable, and you've got a real tabletop type position in your hips, you should be feeling this almost immediately in your hamstring. And in your bum even. Keep your right foot flexed as you do this. If you're not feeling it in your hamstring and you're just feeling it in your left hip, you're probably in a little bit more of this kind of position. You need to really check it. You can even go and grab your cushion and bring it onto your pelvis if you want, or your brick, and keep the pelvis super stable. Keep going. Remember, we're trying to strengthen our hamstrings today. I'm going to do 2 more. Good. Then really gently bring your weight into that left foot. Bring yourself up without dropping your right foot down, and then grab a hold of your right foot behind you. So then we go into a nice little quad stretch. Hold the leg in either with one hand or with 2 hands if you want to get a bit of an extra stretch in your chest. And this is why if you've got your chair and you're losing your balance, just grab a hold of your chair. That's absolutely fine. Lengthen down and away with your right knee. Lift up a bit more with your hip so you feel the stretch along your quad. And then nice and gently bring it down. Good. I know that all seems quite complicated, all of those little movements. We're going to try it one more time on the right side, and then we're going to do it twice on the left side. So I'm going to bring my chair to the front again. Take yourselves to that all four position. In fact, if you're going to use your chair, you're probably going to need it to be slightly to the side, so that when you need it, you can grab it from the side instead of having to walk forwards. So from your all fours position, press down into your left foot, engaging that left inner thigh. Nothing else moves, you just slide the right leg back behind you. Slide it across to the side. Don't worry about the side bend now, that was just a little extra stretch. Don't let that right hip drop, keep it up. Tuck the right toes under, tuck the left toes under, and very gently push yourself back into a downward dog. See if you can feel that stretch down the back of your legs and your outer hips. And then from there, really slowly walk yourself backwards. If you can, you stay in this forward fold position. You can keep your fingertips on the floor. I'm going to show you it with the forward fold position, but if it's too much for you to be here with the legs straight, you take your chair. In your forward fold position, you want to keep your arms nice and straight, stay on your fingertips, and bring yourself onto that left leg. Keep your pelvis nice and stable, and then again you lift the leg and you lower it. Lift it and lower it. As you lift it, watch you don't let that right hip lift. Otherwise it's going to come right away if you do this. It's not going to be in your hamstring or your bum at all. It's just going to be in the hip. And you want it to get into that right hamstring. This is also really good practice if you want to try and get yourself eventually to go into a forward bend split. And you might find as you're here, like I have, eventually you can get your hands to go flat. Because what you're doing so much is working that left thigh bone right up into the socket whilst you're working your right leg. Oops. Give me two more. Perfect. Now this time, take that foot back behind you where it was to start off with. Very gently, you're going to see if you can bend your knees and bring yourself down onto your knees. So you come into a Gomukhasana kind of prep position for the legs. Then make your feet go a bit wider. Very gently, you bring your bum back. Now as you come back, you want to push your left hip back more. Don't let it sit on that left foot, or right foot actually, and see if you can sit yourself back. Hug your knees towards each other, and again, if this is uncomfortable and your knees are right up here, you can't possibly cross your legs, bring yourself onto a cushion. That is more than fine. We're not going to work on the arms today, we're just working on the legs. So if you keep squeezing your legs towards each other, you sink your sitting bones into the floor and you try and sit yourself up nice and tall, lengthening from your sitting bones to the top of your head. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to walk ourselves forward. So push yourself forward. Take your hands out in front of you. Very gently lift yourself and bring yourself into a standard downward facing dog. You might find that right now, in this standard downward facing dog, you feel quite open in your left hip because you've already done quite a lot now to open up that left hip. So now we're going to work on that right hip. So you're going to lift your toes and gently come down onto all fours. So now we're going to get ourselves ready to do that all on the other side. So now press down into your right foot. Try and get your right inner thigh to engage without moving anything else. Slide your left leg out behind you and then draw that left leg across. Now keeping the left leg across without your left hip dropping down, you're going to walk your hands slightly forwards and then gently take that left arm across to the right. So you just get that nice little stretch in the left side of the body, all the way from the toes to the fingertips. Walk it back to the center with your hands, but keep your leg where it is. Tuck your left toes under, tuck your right toes under. Breathe in, squeezing your inner thighs together, just push your legs backwards. And see again where you feel that stretch in your legs, and can you lift a little bit more through your right hip? Because now of course we're trying to open up that right hip a little bit more. And then really gently walk your hands backwards. And again, I'll show you this first one with the chair, second one I'll do without the chair. So if you place your forearms on the chair, you keep your right foot where it is, and you keep yourself in a tabletop type position. Don't let yourself round and move backwards. Keep your hip right over the top. I just need to move myself forwards a little bit. And then lift that leg up and down, keeping yourself in a stable position with your pelvis. Keep your left foot flexed as you bring it up and down. And you want to bring it to the point where you feel your hamstring is doing the work. You'll probably feel as you take it to the top, if you push it a little bit further, then you really get right into your hamstring and your glutes. 2 more. Perfect. Then bring that leg back behind you again, so it's quite far away from the right one. Very gently move the chair to the side. Bring your hands back down. Bring that leg back and come back to all fours. Okay, so then we're going to do that all again on that side without the hip stretch, or the side stretch rather. So then we go into our Gomukhasana legs. So again, press down into your right foot, breathe in, engaging your right inner thigh, slide your left leg back. Don't let the hips move, just push that leg to the side. Tuck your toes under, press yourself right back and up into a downward dog. And you might feel now like that right hip is a little bit more open, and maybe you can go a little bit deeper. And then walk yourself backwards. I'm at the same time going to walk myself forwards because I know I'm going to hit the sofa behind me otherwise. And you see if you can bring yourself into a forward bend. Start off on your fingertips so you have a nice length through the sides of the waist. Take yourself onto that right foot and then lift the left leg and bring it down. Again, you're trying to keep your pelvis really nice and stable, really even as you're lifting. And you might find as you stay here, eventually you can go a bit deeper. Two more. Beautiful. Then don't drop that leg. Take it up. Bring yourself all the way up. Grab the leg. And first of all, with one hand, you see if you can take it into a quad stretch. If you want to, you can take it in with 2 hands. So you get a nice stretch in the chest. Oh, see, that's what happens when I look at you. Keep pressing down through the knee, lifting through the pubic bone, lengthening through the waist. Then very gently, bring the leg down, cross it back behind you again, and then start to bring yourself really deeply into bending your knees. Come onto your knees and bring the feet away from each other. And then you start to press back more through your right hip. You need to really push that one back, otherwise you end up sitting on this foot, your left foot. Although it feels like it should be your right foot. And then sink into your sitting bones. As I said before, if this is super uncomfortable, you can't possibly get your knees there, sit yourself up on a chair, on a cushion or a couple of blocks. That's absolutely fine. Then just hold on to the knees, give them a little bit of a hug. Try to encourage them to move towards each other. And then just lengthen out of your sitting bones, up through the sides of your waist and into the top of your head. Take a nice deep breath here. And then bring yourself forwards again. Back to that all fours position. Uncross the legs. And then we're going to come down onto our backs. Now before you come and lie down on your back, just bring your hands behind you. We're going to go into a Supta Baddha Konasana instead of a Shavasana today, which is a bound wide-legged position. So you're going to drop your right knee into your left leg, scooch the right foot forwards a little, and then take the right knee out to the side and bring that foot to the centre. Drop your left leg into the centre, scooch that foot forwards a little, take the left knee out to the side, bring the feet together. So you're in that position that you were on again at the wall at the beginning. And then really gently lower yourself down Let your feet come towards your pelvis and find that neutral spine position. Close your eyes. Let your shoulders relax. Your hips relax. Try to let your knees widen. If in this position you feel like your legs are really struggling to stay open, go and grab a few cushions and bring them underneath your knees so that they have a little bit of a way to relax. It's difficult if you've got very tight inner thighs to relax in this position. And see if you can let both of your hips sink down into the floor. Both sides of your ribs relax into the floor. And then you can stay here for a bit longer if you like. Or just gently bring your knees back together. Roll onto your right side and bring yourself up to sitting. Hands together. And that's it for your day 12. So hopefully you feel like your legs are a little bit more in line and released, and you're ready to keep going with your hamstring strengthening rather than just stretching. Namaste. I'll see you tomorrow, but also I wanted to remind you, don't forget about my free giveaways. So if you haven't already and you have taken part in these videos, all you have to do is take a picture of yourself or a video, either during or after, tag me on Twitter or Instagram at Amy Zara Yoga, and then you might be in for a chance of winning either a lovely yoga mat bag or a yoga blanket, both from Yoga Mad. So hopefully you get to win it. And again, namaste.